I waited my whole life to be seen as his sister, to be loved for who I truly was. But that day, when I finally whispered the truth to my brother, he told me, in the coldest voice I'd ever heard, "Don't call me again." I remember standing in the kitchen, the sun slipping through the blinds, and my hands shaking as I held his gaze. 60 years of life had led me to that moment, and somehow my heart still ached like I was 12 again, being told I was wrong for simply existing. I am Margaret, and I am a transgender woman. I share my story on Oma True Stories because if someone out there hears me tonight, maybe they will know they are not alone. I grew up in a house where silence spoke louder than words. My mother had a voice like thunder when she was angry, and it was always directed at me. "Stop being strange, Margaret," she'd say, her eyes sharp like knives. My father, quiet and worn, would only nod, pretending he didn't notice the tears streaming down my cheeks. I learned early that love in my family was conditional, given only when you followed the rules, only when you fit into a shape that wasn't mine. School wasn't any kinder. I remember the boys calling me names, the teachers ignoring it, and the subtle whispers that followed me down hallways. "She's not like us," they'd say, and I wasn't. Not like them, not like anyone, not yet. I didn't know then that being different would become my life's quiet burden, the thing I carried alone for decades. By the time I was 16, I had learned to hide in plain sight. I wore baggy clothes, kept my voice low, and laughed when everyone else laughed. But inside, a storm raged. I wanted so badly to step out of the shadow, to look in the mirror and see myself, the real me, reflected back. I wanted to be Margaret, not a ghost in my own body. Racism added another layer to my life struggles. My skin was brown, my name sounded foreign, and I learned quickly that society didn't make room for people like me. I was twice othered. First for my skin, then for my soul. Jobs were scarce, respect even scarcer. But I survived. Somehow, I always survived. When I first told my brother, I was 48. It wasn't the first time I had come out to someone in my family, but it was the first time I was brave enough to face him directly. I had rehearsed the words 1,000 times in my mind. "David, I need you to know the truth," I said, my voice trembling, though I tried to steady it. He looked up from the paper he was reading, frowning. "Truth about what?" I'm transgender. I've been living as a woman for years now." His hand froze mid-turn of the page, and then he said it. "Don't call me again." I remember the silence that followed. The way the air felt thicker, the way my chest hurt so much it was hard to breathe. I wanted to cry, scream, beg him to understand, but I didn't. I just nodded, turned, and walked out of his life in that instant. I spent years blaming myself, thinking perhaps I had done something wrong. Perhaps my truth was too much. But slowly, painfully, I realized that the fault was never mine. His inability to love me for who I am didn't erase my worth. Life kept moving. I found love in unlikely places. I found friends who became family, neighbors who became confidants. I worked countless jobs, sometimes menial, sometimes soul-draining, but each paycheck was a step toward freedom. I furnished a small apartment of my own, painted the walls the colors I loved, and finally allowed myself to look in the mirror and smile. At 55, I met someone who loved me for my full self. Her name was Clara, and she had eyes that could see right into your soul. She didn't flinch when I told her my past, didn't recoil at my fears, my scars, my history. She became my safe harbor in a world that had too often tossed me aside. And then came the day I almost didn't believe would arrive, my granddaughter's wedding. Jennifer, my bright, laughing granddaughter, had insisted I walk her down the aisle. I had never imagined holding such a place of honor, never imagined being celebrated in a family that had once looked away. I wore a simple blue dress, my hair styled in soft waves, my hands trembling as I pinned on a corsage. I felt every eye on me, every heart in the room. Some smiled, some whispered, some stared, but in that moment, I realized that love had finally outweighed fear. And yet, my brother was not there. He had refused the invitation, sending a card with a few cold lines. "Congratulations, but do not contact me." I felt a pang, a sharp echo of old wounds, and I cried, not just for the absence of one man, but for the years lost, for the silence, for the pain that could never be undone. Later, I sat on the porch with Clara, watching the sun melt into gold across the horizon. "You look so peaceful," she said softly, brushing a silver strand from my face. I nodded. "I am. I've learned that peace isn't about everyone loving you. It's about loving yourself, enough to keep living. If you're listening to me on Oma True Stories, thank you for giving me a voice. Thank you for letting me say what I've carried for decades. And if someone out there feels the same pain I did, know that your truth is beautiful. Your life is worthy. And your love, your voice, your very being is enough." Sometimes I think about my brother, about what might have been if he could have loved me as I am. I think about the little girl I once was, hiding in closets, whispering to herself in the dark, hoping someday the world would see her. I want to tell her, "Margaret, you survived. You survived the pain, the rejection, the silence. You are not broken. You are magnificent." And finally, I feel like I can say it aloud, in the quiet of my home, in the warmth of the sun. I am Margaret. I am whole. I am loved. The wedding day fades behind me now, but the memory is a soft light I carry. It reminds me that life, even with its cruel turns and bitter people, can be beautiful. That forgiveness, even if not returned, can heal you. That identity is not something to be hidden, but celebrated. If you're sharing this on Oma True Stories, let it be known that resilience matters, that dignity matters, that truth matters, and that love, your courage, your honesty, is the legacy that no one can take away. I stand in my apartment now, the walls painted with joy, the windows open to the breeze, and I finally feel at peace. My brother may have turned away, but I have turned toward myself, and that, I have learned, is enough. I am 68 years old. I am a transgender woman. I have lived a life of rejection, of pain, and of quiet triumphs. And in the end, I am free.